All right, I clicked on the go streaming button.
Go stream. Stream go.
Okay, we should be. Hold on one second. Gotta undo that. Boom. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Random Respawn, where we talk about gaming news, gaming things, and gaming stuff. I'm Josh Raptor. Over there to my left is Calebite, and over there to my right is Dr. Baghdaddy. Although, just reverse those, depending on how and where you're watching this. But anyways, welcome to another episode. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, you guys.
Eleanor, welcome. Wallace, welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Eleanor beat out Wallace.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, on average, 99% of the time it's Wallace. So, and technically, we beat him out with our own.
Wallace has got him on consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to get them on the show.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons?
Oh, you're just gonna keep going. Okay.
Okay. All right. So
listening to a little bit of the audio, I think you're quieter than me and Sean.
Okay, I'm bumping it up. Okay, so
that bitch up.
bump it up. So here in Random Respawn Studios, as I stall and talk as I adjust my levels, today's topic is all about the greatest consoles, or we're going to list our top 3 favorite consoles, but there are a couple caveats, and we had to have owned these consoles. If we didn't own it, you can't say like, well, the Dreamcast was definitely the best because of this and this. And I think the goal is to, at the end of this, figure out whether or not the greatest console has to do more with the experience that the console provided, the games that came with it, or if there were other outside factors that attribute to whether or not a console makes the greatest list of your life. And Grand Marshal couldn't be with us, but I thought this provided a pretty sweet opportunity because Dr. Baghdaddy is my brother. So he and I owned the same consoles growing up. So I'm curious as to see what his top 3 will be, considering that we kind of had the same playing ground, as opposed to Calebite, who we did not grow up with.
Shockingly.
But I have been to his home.
Yes, you have, for 24 hours. Or less.
That's right, for less than that. So this is just a quick story. I get a text one day from a number that I didn't have saved on my phone because I just got a new phone, and it just said, hey, do you want to take a road trip down to Georgia? And I was like, sure, that sounds great. And then they're like, all right, cool, we're going to leave this time. You know, you don't have to drive. It's just easier to go with someone's in the car. And they're like, all right, cool. And then, like, you know, a good while passes, and I go, all right, by the way, who is this? And then I was down for the road trip way before I knew who was actually asking me for it. But then when I found out it was Caleb, I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's somebody that I actually like, as opposed to like agreeing to go with my enemy, which is a frequent thing in my life.
Mine enemy.
Who would that be?
The Gestapo.
Yeah, that was it was a pretty significant amount of time in between when I'd said, hey, do you want to go? And you're like, yeah, before you asked, oh yeah, and who is this? It was pretty funny.
So let's start off by, I would say, by listing the consoles that we actually had owned, I guess, in the fastest order. And then Sean and I are kind of just going to go back and forth off of each other just because we did the same thing. So I guess, Caleb, you go ahead and go first, and then Sean and I will go second as one unit, as a 1G unit.
All right. As 1G unit. All right. Consoles I owned. I had a ColecoVision.
Oh my god!
Way old school. Didn't have the Atari, but I did have the next one, the ColecoVision.
Yeah, clearly the better of the two.
Yeah, the one everyone remembers.
That's right. When gaming history museums.
That's kind of a theme.
Oh, it's fun. Oh, really?
Kind of a theme.
You
with
had
the
Sega Saturn, didn't
that my
you?
family owned.
Did you have
I did have a Sega Saturn.
I knew it.
So my brother, a little preamble with all this. My brother is 10 years older than me. So I was subject to whatever trend in technology he was following, and I didn't get to if I wanted a 64 or something, it wasn't like, oh, I want a 64, they'll get it for me. Like, it was whatever Amos was getting because he was the technology leader in the family. So my parents just got him whatever technology things he wanted. And he, being the hipster to hipster that he is, would always choose like the off-brand stuff. So he was always going down like the other camp of what was the most popular for the most part. So we had the ColecoVision. And then we went down the Sega route. We did have a regular Nintendo, so Nintendo Entertainment System. We did have that, but then got Sega and all of the Sega upgrades from there. So Sega CD, Sega Mega Drive, Sega Saturn, and then jumped ship and didn't get a Dreamcast for whatever reason. But we didn't get a Dreamcast, so we hopped over to the PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and then jumped again to the Xbox. Xbox 360, and then jump back with the PS4. So kind of all over the place. And then for handhelds, I don't know if we were counting those.
We are.
But
those definitely count.
Had Big Burger Game Boy, and then a couple different Game Boy colors, and that was about it. I never owned a DS, which is or a 3DS or any of those, which was pretty crazy. But that's the most. And then I mean PC, obviously, but.
PC. We're not counting PC as a console. This because we said console. We said console. Darn it.
We said console. Yeah, I think that's it. I didn't own a lot of the really random like the Virtua Boy or some of the other like crazy ones. Neo Geos.
The Engage was the
Engage.
Engage.
Yeah, I didn't have an Engage or some of those other crazy ones. I think that's the consoles that I owned, yeah.
So Sean and I started off with the Sega, and we had Sega Channel, which was the coolest S word ever. It was, for those that don't know, it's you basically took, it was honestly like a super duper fat top, and then you would plug that into the Sega like normal, but it connected. The side had a cable port, a cable import, like you would get for like from an antenna or from your like TV provider. And for a monthly fee, you would get like 30 games every month, but they would be the full game. It was like the precursor to streaming that we didn't realize what was going on. But yeah, so we had Sega Channel, and it was the dopest. So we start off with Sega. We did have a Nintendo, but we only had Duck Hunt and the first Mario. And I don't know what happened to that because we played Duck Hunt an inch from the screen.
No, we had that baseball game, remember?
Oh, the baseball game was awful. Yeah. Oh, you could hit and, like just swing constantly. Yeah.
Wasn't it baseball?
The only
or the one with the robots or the other one?
It was the other one.
Oh.
Memorable about the baseball game as a child was the ability to hit the hitter with the pitch.
Yeah, so that's all we do. We would just hit each other over and over again.
We would tell me to hit him.
My brother and I would play.
And I didn't realize you get a free base when you hit the player, so I just kept like hitting his hitters, and you can't tell the difference between the hitters. Like it's a little yellow pixel. They didn't have different genders back in the Nintendo baseball world.
Why
so then I look up at the score because if you see like a black. See like a white hitter, you're like, oh, it's a different hitter.
Races and gender are way different. Every MLB game still has the same gender. You weirdo.
My bad.
I don't like. How are you cutting people open and you're like, what gender is this? And
these little dingly pixels. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So then I look up and the score is like 50-0, and Josh is winning, and I don't know how he's winning because he hasn't hit a single ball in play.
Yeah, so we had Nintendo, Sega, and then we got the N64, followed by the GameCube, and then our cousin gave us his old PlayStation, which I fried by shocking myself on it. And then we got the Xbox. My dad got us an Xbox the day Halo 2 came out, and it was sold out everywhere. We had no idea how it happened. He was like, oh, betas come, and he opens his trunk, and there's a new Xbox in there with Halo 2, and we're like, how did you even get this? Because my dad's not going to pre-order anything. And he's like, oh, I went to Kmart, and they just had shelves and shelves of it. No one thought to go to Kmart. Yeah. Everyone was at GameStop or Electronics Boutique at the time.
Yes, EB Games.
So so we had that, and then we got the Wii, I got a PS2. We kind of shared it for a little while, but then we went to college. The PS2. I ended up inheriting Marshall's 360, and Sean I think
Yep.
got one too. And then we got the PS3 for Christmas in San Diego, and that was mostly mine. Sean didn't really play a ton of that actually. And then the PS4, and now the Switch. And I think Sean does not have the PS4. You got the Xbox One, right?
Got the Xbox One as a graduation gift from Barbie, and then I bought a Switch. Well, no, Bex bought me the Switch for a anniversary present.
Oh, that's very sweet. And then in terms of handhelds, we had a Game Boy Pocket that was green that we played Pokemon on. And then I did get the DSi and then eventually the DS XL. One of them. I had two. Oh, I also had a PSP. I totally forgot. I had a PSP for a while.
Yeah, I didn't have that.
Well, that's not making the list.
I was just about to say that. I was like, the fact that I completely forgot about it. Yeah, so that's it. So we'll start with our. Do you want to do an honorable mention or just start with number 3?
Are we including mobile gaming?
I will not include the cell phone. These are I'm classifying them as dedicated console games.
Do you count Tamagotchis?
Tamagotchis would count. They are a dedicated gaming device.
So I had some of the I had several of those
like the Nano
like
Babies.
the one game device. Like
oh
you
yeah,
had,
the Game and Watch.
Yeah, Game and
Space
Watch.
Invaders or something, and it was a little console, and that was all it was just that one game, with like 2 buttons, and they were usually impossibly difficult.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but
I guess
I had a couple of those. I can't remember what any of their names were.
Dedicated gaming device is the thing that was filled with water, and you hit a button to like push the rings up to try and. I guess that counts as a dedicated gaming device.
That's true.
You spoiled my number one.
That was number 1. That's right. Didn't need batteries. If you accidentally shook it and there were a lot of bubbles in it, you'd screw yourself over.
Yeah. So number 3. Oh. Well, what's your? I'm going to hear what you guys' number 3 is.
Yeah, Sean, you want to start it off?
Okay. Well, I didn't prepare. I know what my number 1 is going to be. But number 3 is. It's such a hard question. I have to say number 3 has got to be the GameCube, or sorry, not GameCube, the Game Boy Pocket. Pokemon was revolutionary when it came out, and all these kids on these playgrounds were pulling out their like connector cables where you had to sync and have a frame perfect A button to sync and trade Pokemon, and you could just go anywhere with it. The battery life was pretty insane, if I remember correctly. And
yeah,
just a system that Josh got addicted to. So
yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for the Game Boy. It did not make the list because of the amount of trouble I got in for it. In hindsight, my mom definitely overreacted. For sure overreacted. But that doesn't change the poor memories I have.
Yeah, I would say I didn't have a Game Boy Pocket, but I had a Game Boy. Like I said, a Big Burger and a Game Boy Color. The like atomic purple one that you could see through.
Oh yeah,
that was all the rage.
That was fly.
Yeah, I that's probably my number 3 also, because that thing, I had a lot of good times with that. I beat was it Super Mario World
2
or Super Mario 2, not World, but Super Mario 2.
Yeah.
And Link's Awakening. I beat those games like 1,000 times on the, and then I had I think I had a another like Yoshi puzzle game.
Was it like Puyo Puyo? Was that before they called it Puyo Puyo?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Puyo Puyo has literally gone through 3 names, like 3 totally different names. And Yoshi,
yeah, I think it was like Yoshi Tetris or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I had the Snoopy game. That game was awesome. The played as Snoopy, and you had to go collect all the Woodstocks in the level and like not die, and yeah, that game was awesome. I forget it was a little puzzle game, but that one was a lot of fun. Had a lot of good times with that. But the Game Boy Color, it it was with me like everywhere that I went when I had that as a kid. And I remember getting all the different little attachments for it so I could keep playing it in the car. Like, you know, I got the adapter so I could plug it in and charge.
I'm fixing this.
Okay.
Oopsies. Okay, I think we're back now. Sorry guys for the technical difficulties.
There's Hangouts window in front of my. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that was. It'll go away.
Record, it was Josh's fault.
It is. So I think I jacked up something. I think something's loose inside my computer, like actually inside it, because I accidentally need it. I mean, like I barely touched it, and it was like "peace out, sucker," and just like completely turned off. So I honestly think that I may have messed up something
not quite screwed in all the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not seeing Sean's face.
No. That's normal. I'm okay. You keep talking and distract everyone that they can't see Sean.
Okay.
And then I am
distraction continuing. So I believe I was talking about the Game Boy Color and some of the games that I played on that, and how I used the light at night when we were taking road trips or whatever, and used that somewhat effectively. Had Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Really enjoyed playing all three of those games. I didn't have a lot of other people that were my age, or I didn't get to experience any of the crazy Game Boy trading things that would happen, like with the Pokemon games, or like Sean was talking about, trying to get the the local play together. I didn't actually get to experience any of that, but did have a lot of fun with the Game Boy.
Hey guys. Okay. So welcome back everyone. Sorry, I'm just I just opened the side of my computer, so it's just open now. So if that happens again, we may just have to call it, because this is insane and ridiculous.
And some might say ridiculously insane.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Dear God.
So
okay. So if we can just get past
again and it shut off.
Yeah, so maybe just skip your Game Boy talk, because clearly that's what's doing it.
I'm gonna stop talking about Game Boys. Somebody else.
Josh, what's your number 3?
Oh my God, yeah. Just shout it, just goes fast as possible. 3, this, 2, this. It's I hate to do like the cop out thing, but it's like I have such a strong I have such like a strong feeling towards both my number 3 that like I wish we did like an honorable mention. But so for me it's a toss up between the 360 and the original Xbox. Those two are insanely difficult for me to choose between.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah, not for sure. Just because and I think that I just barely have to give it to the Xbox. And I mean just barely give it to the Xbox over the PS3. Because the first Xbox was just, I mean, the amount of time that Sean and I played Halo with each other, we played Mortal Kombat, and we played more Halo, and just also the experience of taking the console with you to other people's houses was just never as much fun. And so for the Xbox, despite it having some really great games, a lot of my favorite games on the Xbox ended up kind of being on the PC or another console anyways. So I personally can't, or I'm not picking the Xbox based on the game selection, because to me it really wasn't that great. I'm picking it on the experience of just playing with my friends and bringing it to different places, and then Sean and I playing Halo and rocket jumping and just everything else that came with Halo 2 and the way it absolutely changed online play.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that's number 3 for you.
Yeah, it's I think I have a controversial number 1. No, I don't. My number 1's awesome. I think I have a controversial number 2. But yes, you guys will just have to wait and see if the stream keeps going, because that'll be the real secret if it just completely crashes. So yeah, and like I mean, the PS3 was awesome. It was my first Blu-ray player. It was the first HD console that that was awesome. I mean, so many good. I mean, just so many good games. I mean, so many good games for the PS3. But I think I just have to. I think that I picking some other consoles based more on the games, whereas I think the Xbox as my number 3 spot is picked because of the experience I had with friends on the Xbox.
All right. So Xbox original or Xbox 360?
Xbox original.
Original. Okay.
Yeah.
Big burger.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
All right.
So, Sean, number 2.
Yeah. Okay. So number 2 for me to be the GameCube. We have Josh and I have friends. They're basically like our little brother and sister, Barbie's kids, Alex and Tay. And growing up, you know, they got whatever they wanted. You know, every new console, every single video game they wanted, they got. But every time Josh and I come over, to this day, what do they want to play?
Smash.
It's GameCube games. Yeah, they want to play Melee, which is what the Smash community still considers the best of the Smash games. I remember going to Zach and Connor's house. We played 007 Nightfire and Agent Underfire so much. Tons of Smash. Resident Evil 4 came out for the GameCube originally.
Yeah.
If we're just talking about like memorable experiences, the GameCube was just far and away good memory, cherished. Any sort of sadness that comes with like the Game Boy. No, just holding Z to make a different sound when the GameCube logo came up. The fact that it was basically indestructible.
It was.
Oh yeah.
And then I think you could download N64 games from it as well.
You couldn't. The only online capability they had was with Phantasy Star Online, but you could hook up your Game Boy Advance to it and then play the Game Boy Advance through the TV, or also use it as like a second map.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I'd have to say GameCube is number 2 for me.
Got it.
Nice. My number 2 is, depending on how I feel, it flips back and forth, kind of like with Josh with his number 3, but I think I'm going to have to say that my number 2 is the original Nintendo, the Nintendo Entertainment System. And it's really between that and PlayStation 2. Because I had a ton of games for the PS2, had a lot of great memories with the PS2. Some of my favorite franchises started with that console, and had a lot of good memories of taking that around with me too, like Josh was saying, to friends' houses. But I think the Nintendo just has to make my number 2 spot, because it started so much of like young gamer me. I mean, that's why I love Mega Man so much, is because I played the absolute crap out of Mega Man 2 when I was a kid. We didn't have Mega Man 1, we had Mega Man 2. and then 3 and 4 and 5. And so I played a whole bunch of Mega Man games when I was younger and absolutely loved those. Metal Storm was another fantastic old school Nintendo game, and original Super Mario. So many great classics, and also really fun, awful games on the Nintendo. And it was like such a fun gaming console to experience, like when developers are learning how to even make games and how to make this whole home console a real thing. And it was really fun being a part of that. And having an older brother who's also like struggling and playing things with me, so I got to learn maybe and beat some games that I probably wouldn't have if it had just been, little kid me with the controller. I probably wouldn't have figured some of the things out, but I had him helping me, so it was like kind of my own Nintendo power in a real person. And just love that console. I definitely have played and love the Super Nintendo a lot more, but I didn't own it, so it can't be on my list. I always played Super Nintendo games over at my friends' houses. Would go over there and play Super Nintendo, GameCube, and N64. I had friends who owned all of those, so I would go and play all those over at their house. But regular Nintendo's got a soft spot in my heart for sure for starting my gaming life.
That's important.
I wanted to add, I forgot to mention, I mean, they had Cube, and then I remember playing that Matrix game that was actually really good, I thought, at the time. And what else? Wind Waker came out for the GameCube as well.
Yeah, Wind Waker did.
The Zelda game of all time.
Yeah,
but
Turn of Darkness too. That game is awesome.
For the GameCube, I must say, is probably the best controller layout I've seen with any console ever.
All right, so
it feels nice in your hand.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump to my number 2 now, which may surprise many of you, and it surprises me a little bit because it just seems too soon to say it. But right now, my number 2 console is the Nintendo Switch.
I knew it.
Yeah, it's so early in its life cycle to have such amazing games, and the fact that I'm going to see Marshall this. I mean, actually, I'm going to see you this weekend too, Caleb. But I'm going to be on a plane. I'm going to be playing Breath of the Wild or Odyssey, or Splatoon 2 single player because I'm not going to be playing fast enough on a plane. The fact that at Stardew Valley and we're still awaiting, a new Melee. Mario Kart is phenomenal. This is the first console where I was able to bring an entire console with 4 controllers to Sean's house, and all it took was a dock. And we didn't even need the dock. We could have just played directly on the Switch, and we were all playing Puyo Puyo Tetris. And, it's easy enough that Laura can hop on and kind of do anything that she wants. And then now it even has third-party support. So, like, the first Doom is on it. Skyrim's on it. So it's just, it's so early in its life. And the stuff that they're doing with it already just, I feel like, makes it such a promising console, and I'm just super impressed by it all over.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I'm definitely gonna get one.
Yeah,
just saving up to get one myself because there's a couple of games on there that would definitely make the purchase worth it. It seemed I gotta admit, I was definitely skeptical when they were first started talking about the Switch and showing like things that it could do, just because I was not a fan at all of the last 2 consoles that Nintendo had released, like the Wii and the Wii U, and those were just horrible. So I wasn't thinking much of the Switch, but I think they've done a good job with it. I'm impressed with some of the games that have come out for it. So it is one of the like best changes in the console. It's finally a good like big turn for the consoles that Nintendo's done, because they've always tried to make the different console, like Sony and Xbox, and before that Nintendo and Sega, they were pretty close together. And then as soon as Sony and Xbox or Microsoft were in the mix, Nintendo was like, all right, well, we're going to be the different one. And they've always tried to do the different thing, and sometimes it's worked out okay, and then with the Wii it wasn't great at all. And then now with the Switch, it's like, yeah, they're very different than the Xbox One and the PS4, but this time it actually worked.
It's for me, like, Nintendo has always been gamers first. You know what I mean? It sounds, at the time when the GameCube came out, the Xbox could technically play DVDs, but the PS2 could play DVDs, and the GameCube couldn't. And people looked down on that. And Nintendo was like, well, if we put a DVD player in there, the console would be more expensive, and it's a gaming console, not a movie player console. And then so Xbox, it seems as like companies tried to get more away from gaming. I feel like the Xbox One was like, it's your one entertainment center, and it didn't do so well. It kind of flopped. Whereas Sony with the PS4, I feel like, yeah, there's a ton of things it can do, but they still geared more towards being the game console for gamers, and they're I think doing a little bit better. But now Nintendo, even with the Switch, it is a pure game console. You can't even watch Netflix on it, which is a little disappointing. But at the same time, I literally have 5 other devices that I can watch Netflix on. It's okay that the Switch doesn't do it at this time. But
right.
Yeah, so I think the Switch number 2 is the Switch for me.
All right.
All right.
Switch number 2.
All right.
Pretty good.
Number 1.
Number
okay,
1.
So little backstory on this one. Growing up, Josh has always been the Nintendo fan. So when the GameCube and the Xbox came out at the same time, he wanted the GameCube. I wanted the Xbox. We got a GameCube. Then the Wii and the 360 came out about the same time. He wanted a Wii. I wanted a 360. We ended up getting the Wii.
The Wii was also $200 cheaper. Let's not forget that.
Right, but
$200 worse.
Yeah.
Wii in and of itself was a very successful console because you couldn't get your hands on it like at all when it first came out. But the Wii U sort of had the opposite effect. And then the Switch was a huge rebound. And I agree that I only have 2 games so far, but I love both of them, Odyssey and Mario Kart. It's just a little too early for me to call it number 1. My number 1, far and away, console ever made was the original Xbox. You mentioned the online gaming, you mentioned the LAN parties. There are so many nights and so many houses we went to where we brought our Xbox. His house, we would always go and play Halo, or Shane's house or our house, and we just pack a room full of prepubescent boys and just play Halo all night. And memorable. But on top of that, the graphics were just this massive jump into realism. And I remember seeing Madden for the Xbox when it first came out and being like, wow, this looks, and Mom said it too, like, amazing. We've never seen anything like it. In addition to that, my best friend Arik, I was over at his house every single weekend in high school with the original Xbox, and the hours we put into Battlefront 2 and a WWE Raw 2, which
what was
is
your character's name?
Okay, so this character Dinko,
Dinko.
You could change your stage persona, like have makeup on and stuff, and then backstage have your makeup off, right? So on stage, I was like a 3-foot-tall green midget with a chicken wing for an arm and leg, left arm, right leg. But then backstage, I was like this 7-foot-tall, beet red, dykish woman, like arm short, leg short. So it was like I would waddle around. I can't even describe this character. Tell a small anecdote. His dad, Andre, comes in one day and he's like, hey guys, I'm going to Carmelo's to pick up some pizzas. What do you? And he looks at my character on the screen and goes, Dad? And so Arik and I just burst out laughing. I put so many hours into WWE Raw 2, and I want to get an Xbox, original Xbox, and that game just to play it again, because the memories are just so great. And everything I think about, if Josh wasn't home, I could go and play, Halo 2 online. Which, prior to even getting Halo, we had the demo for PC that we played all the time. And I can't tell you how many times I beat, what was that one map? The one campaign
Blood
mission
Gulch?
You could do.
No, Blood Gulch.
No, well, Blood Gulch was the only map.
Multiplayer.
Yeah. What was it, the Architect or the Artemis?
He was the cartographer, the silent cartographer.
Yes, yeah.
Cartographer, yeah, that's right.
I mean, but then that just made me want to get an Xbox so badly, and once I did, I mean, everything about it was great. Taking it somewhere, going somewhere where somebody had it, or playing online, you could do it all. It had great games. It was an easy choice for number 1 for me. 2 and 3 were a little bit more difficult, but far and away, I think the greatest console ever made was the original Xbox.
Yeah,
Nice.
everything you said about it is absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, it really the change in graphics was pretty huge. It was the first console, I think, to use an NVIDIA chip, I think, instead of a proprietary one. But actually, the GameCube used an ATI chip, but the GameCube came after the Xbox. So, yeah, I don't know. Console stuff is like really crazy because Microsoft tried making something for Sega for a while, and then Sega kind of didn't go with Microsoft. It was like, it's crazy. It's crazy how the Xbox kind of came about and how pretty revolutionary it was, especially in the online gaming space.
Yeah, Xbox Live was insane when that first came out, and Halo Online, or Halo 2 Online, and it was insane, so good. And I just loved how massive everything was for that. Like, like the console weighs like 20 pounds.
It's so
this
fat.
Huge cinder block console, and then the controllers, the original ones that came out, were just these massive
I
blocks.
forgot.
I mean, I loved those
So
controllers because
bad.
they fit my like long fingers, but oh man, they were huge. The huge controllers that came with it. Like, I love the aesthetic of that console. It was so great. Well, my number 1 is, I don't think I don't think that this is the greatest console ever made. So, Josh is saying that the
Is it the
original
Virtual
Xbox
Boy? It's the Virtual Boy.
I didn't own a Virtual
I
Boy.
know.
It was not that. But the Xbox 360 is my number one console. I had a lot of the same experiences that you guys did with the original Xbox, and I agree in that being probably a better hardware piece, and all the revolutionary changes and everything that came along with the Xbox original were great. But the Xbox original was my brother's, and I mean I loved it and played it and had a great time. Went over to friends' houses, played tons and tons and tons of Halo 1 with friends, making custom rules and all kinds of shenanigans. But the Xbox 360 was my console, and even through all of the Red Ring disasters and everything else, I had one, and I went through the phase of like customizing it with the faceplates and the LED lights and the full-on
switched out the
case.
hard
So like, I
drive,
took
didn't you?
everything apart off of it
Yeah.
and put a whole new case around it, and did all kinds of crazy stuff with my 360. But that console is just such a good memory for me with being in college and like having six or seven guys in our dorm room with all these TVs lined up along our dressers and just like playing video games all through the night. Halo 3, Call of Duty 4. Lots of great memories with the 360. And playing online, and that's the console I probably spent the most amount of time on, is just playing through all that, going through getting achievements for things, just everything about the 360 I loved so much. Going through all the different phases with the dashboard system that they had.
my
So it was
God.
like the original home screen, and then it changes to something else, and then it had the blades, and just all of those different things. Living through all of that was crazy. And then when they were first started to experiment with the Mii's, the avatar things, it was like, it's just so many changes that happened through the life of that console, and got so much value out of that. And I actually, whenever I go to like Comic-Con type things, Dragon Con, whatever, whenever I go to a convention related to gaming things, I actually have a 360 that I take with me and have that signed. So that's my like object that I take around with me and have people sign it. So I have the Halo Reach edition of the 360 that's got a whole bunch of signatures on it, like the guy who voices Duke Nukem and a couple other people from and I don't go to conventions very often, but whenever I do, that's like my choice item that I take to have people sign, just because I love that so much. It has so many memories for me.
That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Okay, so my number one is the GameCube. Nice. For a lot of the reasons it made number two for Sean, but so basically it took a long time, but we ended up getting our own rooms. And Sean had the original Xbox in his room, and I had the GameCube in mine. And I think that's where it kind of splits off. I think I would have had the same experience as you if I had the 360. But my mom didn't want me bringing an expensive something to college because she assumed that it was going to get stolen within like 2 weeks of going to college. So I opted for a PS2. And although I played amazing games, it was a last gen console. So I got to play all of the games super cheap, and it was fantastic. It really was. But I feel like I missed out on owning a 360 and being able to bring it into a friend's dorm and kind of go to town that way. Wasn't it on your floor that two people? Oh, actually, I think it was on third floor of Sloan, the building that I was in. But two of the roommates, basically, so they were 4 suite mates, 2 and 2. 2 of them took their mattresses and brought it over into the other. So 4 people were sleeping in one room, but they put all the video game and consoles in the other. So it was like a dedicated gaming room, and then the other one was just for sleeping, which you never did. And so I feel like I missed a lot of that by the time I ended up inheriting Marshall's 360, because he got the slim version or whatever, and so I got it. So I enjoyed it. It was a fantastic console. And actually, it was really hard to get you to get the PS4 because of how hard coded you were to get the next Xbox system because of your experience on the 360.
Yeah,
I must say, because I have an Xbox One right now, and I enjoy it, but all things considered, I would say a PlayStation 4 would suit me much better.
Yeah. And Caleb, what were you saying?
Yeah, just it was a tough decision switching over because yeah, the 360 was like that was my life. That game was insane. So many good games out. Like my favorite shooter of all time, Battlefield Bad Company 2.
Yeah.
And the ridiculous times Corey and I had achievement hunting in Bad Company 1. Holy crap, those achievements were hard.
Yeah.
Never did get them all. There were like two that were
Wow.
basically impossible to get by the end because the online population was just so low.
Of course.
You couldn't do it anymore. But oh man, that good times with that. The GameCube was a fantastic system, and I did want to verbally shout out. I know we acknowledged it in chat, but Wallace said that his top three were number 3 the N64, number 2 the Game Boy / Game Boy Color, and number 1 the SNES. Far and away better than his number 2. And I think if I had owned any of those other than the Game Boy, I think those would have made it somewhere on my list as well. N64 was great.
Josh and I never owned the SNES, but our cousin did, and we were over at her house all the time.
Yeah,
and we played it all the time.
But yeah, we didn't technically own it. Yeah, but I even if we did own the SNES, I still think that my list would be the same. Just like the GameCube was just so much fun. It was just a fun console to me. And it was like, I mean, I think it had the first wireless controller. It had the Wavebird that actually worked. It didn't have rumble when you were wireless, but you could like mentally feel the rumble. It had Animal Crossing, which Sean forget, and Beautiful Joe. And Animal Crossing was a game that my mom picked up, and she wouldn't let us play because she's like, I want to play Animal Crossing. And we're like, well, there goes 3 hours of us playing video games. So it was just, it appealed to a ton of Mario parties, and Sean kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the way that it was designed, and it was like for A to be so big, they were like, okay, I mean, the idea behind that is because that's the biggest button, that's the one that you push most often in a normal setting, and it worked. So like for action games, it's like, oh, that was jump because it's literally the biggest button. You couldn't miss it, and it's such a good design aspect of it to be intuitive to know like, okay, if I'm holding this, the biggest button is the most important or the most frequently pushed, and the B is a little bit smaller and it's harder to hit, so it's slightly more special. And it just made so much sense. I mean, Metroid Prime was on it. Sean forgot to mention Beautiful Joe, which is a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game.
Resident Evil 4. I mean, how many times did you beat Resident Evil 4, Sean?
I have beaten it at least 20 times now.
Yeah, and he's not even exaggerating. And it's just, I mean, Mario Sunshine. It's just, and the speedrunning community for Nintendo games just seems to be insane. I think the fastest time for someone to complete Animal Crossing to 100% is like 158 hours, which is insane. It's just like ridiculous that's a thing. But I mean, Sunshine is one of the most speedrun games. Sunshine and Mario 64, but
Sunshine's really fun to watch.
Sunshine is second to 64, and third is Ocarina of Time, I believe.
Oh yeah, and I mean, even on the GameCube, they came out with the Master Edition of Ocarina of Time, so you could play Zelda, you could play the original Zelda, or like Sean said, Wind Waker, which I do believe that it is the best. Actually, Breath of the Wild is a totally different Zelda experience, and it still is a Zelda game, but I don't know, it's just something magical about Wind Waker.
That is the best word to describe it. Something about that game is very magical, but that'll lead into a whole other discussion. Yeah. But I agree with you. Wind Waker, at face value, you were like, what is this? This is nothing like the Ocarina of Time that I loved, or the Majora's Mask, which was dark. And in a way, Wind Waker was the darkest of the Zelda games, and it was just magical. That's the best way to put it.
Caleb, it looks like you're talking, but we're not hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything from you, Caleb. Oh God. Can you hear us? Caleb? Nope.
You're just gonna keep going.
We just gotta. Well, that's kind of the end of it, I guess. Yeah. Oh crap.
Let's try to be better next time.
Yeah, this was such a cluster. Oh no, Caleb! Why, Caleb? Why? We can't hear you, all caps. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Our silent partner over there is Calebite. over here is Dr. Baghdadi, subbing it. Not even subbing in. I feel like we're just we'll see if I don't know. It's always fun talking with Sean. But yep, that's Dr. Baghdadi.
Get some of the fans on. Get Vivalis.
Yeah, we totally should.
No, I mean, I enjoy listening to the show very much. I enjoy being on the show, but I really like to see the OG crew get back together. So, or Aaron Pathamavong would be great on the show too.
Oh, Aaron might be good. Caleb, we still can't hear you, but there's a chance. I'm trying to push it really hard that we're all going to be together next Monday, and I'd like to do a live podcast with all of us actually in the same room, because you guys may not know this, but we podcast in separate states, and with Sean, separate time zones. So it would be super cool if we could all get together and do a huge in-person podcast, but I feel like it would be tangent after tangent, because we could look at each other and throw things at Marshall because he says stupid things all the time. So yeah, this sucks. Sorry, Caleb. We can't hear you, man. Whoa, that was weird. But that's about it. And see you guys next time.